see what we can end up with. All right. Now let's check the audio, make sure we're good. It's gonna be kind of an interesting morning here. Yeah, got audio. Got audio. Stream seems to be up and running, which I like. You know what I've noticed is that YouTube's gotten a lot better at notifying people that were live. Over the past couple of months, I've noticed that like almost immediately people are getting the notification and coming in. Where it used to be like there'd be a good 15-minute gap before YouTube you'd see any traffic over on YouTube, because the notification was going out so much later than the actual start. So hey, that's excellent news. Chris Gordy here, NewPragmatic. So good to have you along. It's a wonderful day. It's Thursday, and we've had a really busy week, but a lot of what we've had has been very not very quote. It's been very content heavy, but not very design heavy. So a lot of individual feedback on tweak this word or what about this paragraph, and not a ton related to, hey, let's look at the shape of that particular page or that particular assignment. So it's good to have some work back in here today. We've got Abby and we've got Heather. I just want to check. It looks like CouchBot is fired, which is great. And it looks like we've got everything from the feedback loop. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have a late submission bounce on through. I'm going to start here with Abby. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and make sure that we are in fact sharing. Yes, we are. Got to peek at my OBS setup. So Abby has it's interesting. So this started out like Abby's about page started out like a paragraph, and over time it has grown and grown and grown, and now it's like grown. It's grown to a point where it's just kind of getting unwieldy. And she also, she has some images meant to kind of show like what she can do, and from her prior life as a visual designer. So it's kind of interesting to see like where things have ended up. Abby, you and I have talked about like the column sort of approach, and like you're right at the edge of this being able to work any longer, and this is going to be a real problem. You can't really go with 2 with the length of this and do some visuals, because again, I'm on a 13-inch laptop. If you were on a tablet, for instance, this would already be broken. But if you were to pop over to a phone, obviously there's a lot of work that needs to happen there as well. So, for that reason, I totally understand why. If I can find my way back over here to Figma. Let's find Figma real quick. There it is. I can totally understand why you're looking at taking this in a different direction now. And it is so difficult to flip things around in Webflow. You really have to have your ideas together before you go there. Okay. Now I want to take a look, because I think this is the, okay. So this is the only page or the only design you've considered, and for our purposes, I'm just going to duplicate it so we can just like smash it around, but still preserve what you've got. I think there's a lot of merit to some of what you're trying to do here. This is at 16. So you're like, I'm going to take you through high school, then I'm going to take you through college, then post-grad, and then, thereafter. The trick here for me, like I like the pairing. The trick here is these paragraphs where you're going flush right with a lot of text. That's just the antithesis of what I would typically tell anybody to do. So in these instances, I want to just come back right, and really I just want to say, okay, well, I'm just going to align these together, and this section is going to be like this, and I'm going to do my best to And I'm going to group these together, and then I'm going to just align this with the top, and there it be. You know, I'm not gonna try to outsmart this and do anything more than the design really wants me to do with it. But you know, this idea that I'm going to package information together, you know, and I would, you know, I would either center this stuff like using Flexbox, or I would align it with the top. I don't really, it's really up to you. But but I like the breaking it up and moving it around. I just think you've got to really be careful about these sort of situations. And right now, you know, you've got this question mark, and it's like, you know, high school, college, post grad, and then I would just say, you know, present. And where you've got present, you know, again, this is that situation where, you know, let's loop this back around, you know, aligned it, and then that, and then, you know, the question is, well, what's the visual here? Well, you've got sketches, you've got wireframes, you've got things that you could put here, and I would encourage you to really get away from showing a finished product here, because the evolution of your design capabilities is understanding that it's not the finished product. It's the journey to the finished product. And showing yet another finished product here, I think, would be a big miss. So I would come back with like a sketch or a wireframe or something messy here, something that goes against what you were doing in these others. The other question here is like, okay, so what do I do up here? You know, do you need all of this? You know, my gut reaction is probably not. I mean, yeah, having this just makes it longer, so I would ditch that. You know, and then it really comes back to, okay, so does that mean I just pull these up? And yeah, I think so. You know, the other question I have is, you know, do you need the box? And the box isn't offending or anything. It's just a question of, do you need it? You know, if I were doing this, I would also consider, like, do I just left align the whole thing? You know, do I measure it in so that this is all lined up? Do I need the socials here? I don't know. If I've got the box, having this like section between makes sense. If I don't have the box, then I want to do something different here, because the you know, I just basically want to just go left aligned with everything. So if nothing else, you know, keeping the box, you know, the question then becomes, okay, do I have the box in set, or do I let the box go to the edges, and then I have like a container inside of that? I think that either way, you know. Oh, another question is, visual designer focused on product design. You know, another way you could look at this is like visual designer on a journey into product design. You know, and then if you want to have your email and socials there, that's fine. And then it's like, you know, do you need the my story header, or can you just like get to it? You know, do you need this? Can this go down below, and you just and you just like head into it? Like there's some measure of figuring out what to do with this. How do you neatly transition into this? One concept might be, okay, I'm gonna just pull the thing up, and you know, Actually, let's lock that down so it doesn't move. And then you come back and it's basically, you know, instead of saying, "Ooh, my story," you kind of like let this carry that weight, and then you just jump into it. And, you know, as far as spacing goes, I'd probably keep the spacing even from here to here, then here to here, so it like has a common cadence to it. Um, and this is one of those spots where, like, really using the top alignment makes sense, because if I'm going to have this like commonly spaced between elements, like I need some sort of hard line at the top, and you know, this allows for that. But if we zoom back and kind of look at the two, one of the things that I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to simplify the design. Like right now, there's this center alignment which I'm trying to solve for. Then there is the my story like transition with the box. Then there is the the right alignment. So, and then like, are we centering the elements, or are we aligning with the top? Like there's a lot of design decisions that I just want to get rid of as many of the design decisions as possible. Now, you may come in and say, "Oh, hello, let's get rid of that." You may come in and say, "Hey, but I really want my email address and stuff in here," and I think that's fine. You know, just slide it in there, or you know, slide it in underneath your name, or bring it down to the bottom and have it down here. But wherever that ends up, I think, you know, it should just be a simple presentation, and like don't make it like jump off the page as its own thing. Okay, but I like it. I like this new direction. I just want it to be. Can we refine it a step further? Okay. All right. So that said, and yeah, I'm like left over here in the midst of Figma land. Or no, I needed to stay in Figma land. What am I thinking? Let's go back to Figma land, because that is where Heather lives, and Heather is in information design. And you know, overall, Heather, I think you've done a good job here. The one thing that I was that I love to see here, and I've seen other students do this, is they come through and they basically, you know, highlight like, oh, this is where, you know, and you know, this is where law of proximity is, and I'm going to just erase, and you know, maybe we change this to red, and we'll put this at, you know, 20, and maybe make this multiply so you can see through it. And okay, so this is where law of proximity is. All right, and then, you know, they come over here and go, oh yeah, and now I'm going to change the background color for that one to this red, and of course I've got to change now to change the foreground here to white. But you get the idea. Like I'm marking, you know, this is all proximity. Like this information all holds together, and you know, then when you get down here, and you know, it's kind of funny. There's a couple of spots where proximity really comes into play, like down here, for instance. You know, really all of this is, you know, this is all working together because it's packaged. Then you get into here, and this is really similarity. Like these cards are very similar, and there's also symmetry going on, and I'll explain symmetry in just a second as soon as I fix this box. And like, let's change the color of it. Yeah, if we made that like a green, and now we can say, oh yeah, and that's Well, that's similarity, definitely similarity, but we also have some symmetry going on. We'll use this green. And the symmetry that's here is if you look at each of the cards, like they're all balanced. But more so than that is the fact that like this is playing straight down the middle. And although, it's kind of interesting now that I look at it, it is not perfectly balanced. So I'm going to throw that symmetry claim out because it's not. It's really weird. It's like it's just off to the right. I'm not dreaming that, am I? No, it's just off to the right, and you can tell because, like, if it was balanced, like, because this is very symmetrical. It's all centered, and this is centered, but it's not quite aligned. I'm not sure what's happening there. Like these items are all aligned. Anyway. All right, regardless. But now you can tell much easier like what you're pointing to, right? Over here is a very good example. There's similarity, like there's a number of areas where similarity is in play. Like just this entire if we use similarity as the example, and I'm just going to come over here and like paste this in. We use similarity as example. Boy, oh boy, I can look at all of this and go, wow, this is telling me where the product is because these are all presented at roughly the same size. They are different, so there's they're not like it's not the same shape copied over and over again. And it's similarity, and it's a little different than what you have going on like down here. The same thing could be said here, like this is similarity, but this is like exacting similarity, like the design is repetitive over and over again. This is just saying, hey, the general idea of the shape is going to repeat. So, and, we're going to use the green again here. Whoops. So, what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of color code this further because I think it makes it easier for you in review to see what's going on. Because otherwise, I think you've done a very good job of talking through like, hey, repeating shapes, jackets, law of similarity, like there it is, right? Even lines, law of continuity, as do the links in the nav bar. Like this is continuity. Like if I click this, it will take me through to another page. So there's areas of this that definitely have these laws and principles. But I'd like to code this up a little bit so that we can see exactly what you're doing. And then again, all of these laws, like proximity, symmetry. Like there's a lot of symmetry right here. Similar continuity, like let's just go and like let's really look at and apply like what areas really carry that through. And I've left these, I'm going to leave these here as examples, but let's go over into part 2, because part 2 is clearly where the struggle is today. In part 2 we have constraints, and it's like, okay, how do I work when I can't just stretch? When I can't just stretch and grow, how do I make this content work? And there's a key here. And the key hint is right up here. You'll create a design that combines what you have learned about spacing and typography to a form factor that will require you to edit. Okay? You can't put everything that's here in here. You just can't. Okay, and one thing that I would look at, look at a Spotify, look at an Apple Music, look at a Tidal. Like how is information? I picked these. These are very like consumer experiences. This is when we and also, by the way, these are all Canadian artists. I do tend to do things thematically, but this is a consumer experience. It should be easy for you to go, hey, what's that like on a phone. Like if I download the Spotify app, what is that like? And this doesn't have to be Spotify, but there are any number of music apps that you could be referencing. And one of the key things that I want you to get in the habit of doing, and we've talked about this from the UX perspective, is I need to do my research. If I look at this and I go, I don't have a hint of where to start, I have to ask myself, well, what type of content is this? Oh, this is music. Okay, this is like an album. Okay, so what other experiences out there deal with this sort of content? And what you'll find is that, oh, there's lots of musical acts on things like Spotify and Apple Music and whatnot. So when we look at this, typically speaking, we're going, and this is also where your mental note to yourself is, okay, how much space do I, what are the type, what's the information that I need? Well, I don't need title and artist, because that's going to be carried over, right? I do need some measure. Oh, and you're using Candera here, so I can't really work with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this right where it is. And Candera is just a Windows font, so it's just like you can only do so much with it. I can't even pull it in because I'm not on a Windows machine. Or maybe I could, but I'm gonna leave that right there. I'm just gonna delete these. Okay. So that said, I'm gonna pull over all this wonderful information right here. And if you're ever wondering, if you're watching this and you're wondering, hey, why does Chris use Roboto so often? It's because you all have access to it. It's because you don't have to go find it. It's just ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's Google Fonts. I'm not full disclosure. I'm not disclosing it as like a great font. Okay, I wouldn't use it in any projects. It's just not my thing. But it's the ubiquity of it means that we can focus on the design. We don't have to focus on, oh gosh, do I have that font loaded? Okay, so here, the first thing I would do is say, oh, hey, I've got this image, and this image, I want it like equal spacing from the side and the top, and then I want it centered. All right, great. From there, I get to come in and say, okay, well, and notice that like this is outside, and then I drag it. The moment my cursor gets over into the frame, it like copies it over to the frame. That's something that a lot of people that are new to the platform, to Figma, might not realize. Okay, so I know that I'm going to need the title of the song. I'm going to need the artist. And I'm thinking in terms of like, okay, this is like a list view of some sort. Okay, this is a shallow window. It's like the width of an iPhone, but it's very shallow. All right, this is like 24 point text, which is larger than I typically would need. So I'm going to put it at, not 26, 16, which is kind of pretty standard. Studio restrictions, release date. So I'm going to get rid of these three. I don't need those, definitely. Oh, this is the album name. Okay, album name. Things that might be interesting to an album. So I'm looking at this, and it's a list of albums. I've got the release date. Release date might be interesting. Rating. Do I need comments? It depends on, like what am I anticipating is going to happen after this? Am I anticipating that I'm going to like get to a place where I see the comments? Maybe, but I think rating would be a pretty applicable thing to have here. But what I don't necessarily need is, I don't need this because, well, actually, I might need released, because otherwise that date doesn't make any sense. 4.5 stars. It's pretty self-explanatory. 10 songs, 43 minutes. That is a fairly standard telling figure that's attached to a lot of albums. From here, it becomes clear that, okay, maybe I need to make this a bold, And I need there to be some sort of size difference between these things. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm going to make this 18. And the band I'm going to keep here at 16. This other information is secondary. I'm going to move the stars because I have a different idea for what I want to have happen there. I'm also going to flip this so that it's now 10 songs, 43 minutes, released March 31st, 2009. Keep that stars thing in mind. Here, this is where I'm going to switch things. I'm going to say, you know what? Let's go with an italic here. And let's change this to 14. So this is secondary information about the album. I'm also going to like knock that down. Okay, so now, you know, I've streamlined this to a point, and it's kind of interesting, you know, just keeping it on that, you know, just adding some space here. I need to like shrink this box up a little. This box is way too big. Okay, so now we know how long the album is. We know when it was released. We know it's an album. You know, there's the image. We know the band name. Now we've got stars. Okay, and this is where I would typically come in and I would go to something like Iconify and just say, you know, stars, and let's just say star. Yeah, okay, so we've got some star ratings here. You could also do this with like a font, but what I'm specifically looking for is I'm looking for this half star. Like, where can I find the half star? And boy, that got large, didn't it? The half star is available, and I'm going to pull over a regular star and the half star together. Okay, so let's see what we got. Okay, so we've got this. There's my star. And there's my half star. And I'm going to get rid of that box. I want to drag these over the top of one another, if I can, so that I can size them at the same time. It looks like I got it. Oh yeah, there it is. I was wondering where if I can get rid of that box. But did I get rid of my half star at the same time? I don't know yet. Okay, it's there. Okay, so now I'll size this down. Come on, zoom on in. Let's make it even smaller. Let's make it even smaller. This is 4.5 stars, if I remember correctly. You folks correct me if I'm wrong. 3. Or no. I want to do 5 across, just to get the spacing right. And one thing I absolutely love is the fact that it will tell you when you're aligned. So there we go. There's my 4.5 star rating on the Metric album. The question I have here is, like, should it be there? I'm going to go ahead and group this. Should it be there? Should it be down here? Should it be somewhere in the middle? I don't think it should be in the middle. I really think it should be right there. And this, you know, there's one other thing that I brought up yesterday in a review, and it was about the concept of putting some of this information side by side, because, you know, we've got lots of space there, and this band name is really short. Well, that's one reason why I included longer titles, like this one, Beauty Behind the Madness. And, you know, you've got that, also got that additional tag here. If we pull that into this design, this is 18 bold. Okay, so that's 18 bold. You see that immediately it gets long, right? And if we had a situation where, I need to group that. Oops. if we had a situation where we had pulled the word metric up to the next line, like it's automatically kicking down. It just says, hey, you need to follow. But there's another problem that we have here. In this dynamic, we can see that, hey, you know, maybe we don't have the ability to include the number of songs or the release date here, because if this gets long, things are going to get funky here. So the question I've got to you is, okay, which one is leaving? For me, it's the number of songs, because I know that the number of songs is less important to somebody than, hey, I'm looking for their 2009 release. Okay. Now you could come up with another reason to flip that around, but the thing I'm always trying to think about is, how is this information going to grow and change? Now we know that the name of this album is not Beauty Behind the Madness. That's The Weeknd. This is Fantasies, right? And now the question is, should it always have this sort of dynamic where this line is like hugging the bottom, and this area up here is variable in that the stars and the name of the band and whatnot move down dependent on this. So basically, this zone of information here is flexible. And the thing you have to think about here is, okay, well, how long can this be? September 31st, 2009. Pretty much anything up to that point should fit. All right. Do you want to keep released? Don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's useful. Don't know. But I will leave that for you to decide. But these are the considerations that I'm thinking about when I'm designing something like this. Okay. And you can see how this arriving at this point is very different than where you were, because where you were, it was more of a situation where, hey, I'm going to try to fit everything in. And in product design, you tend to need to get comfortable with space, okay? And what I basically have done here is really, really accentuated the interior spacing. This is, when there's two types of spatial design. There's macro, which is I'm designing everything large about the interface, and then there's micro, and I'm going to design everything about the interior space between these elements on a very small piece. Okay, so this is very much focused on the micro, and we are focused on the micro because this is going to repeat over and over and over again. And one of the easiest ways to see how this happens is if you copy this and then you say, okay, and now I'm going to go do this one. Okay, or I'm going to go do the Rush album. If you do the others, and Exit Stage Left Remastered is not exactly short, right? If you and of course we could design, like, this is where we get fun. If we said, hey, you know what, this is going to be this design is and I'm pretty sure I'm going to break it, but I'm going to do this anyway for our purposes. I'm going to go ahead and add auto layout. So did you notice that pulled that little imperfection of the stars and moved it? Well, now I'm going to pull in Exit Stage Left, and it bumped. It's funny, it bumped that. Oh, I see. Right, because I left that all just in. Makes total sense. This is not really the end of this, because yes, but no. That was a different element. So if I paste that, well, I don't want to paste that back in. I just want to come back through. Okay, now I've got that in something that is a little more functional. I had left this, like this is auto layout, and that's great. And I just want to, nope, got to do it a different way. Okay, so we're going to do auto layout here, but I've got to rethink how I was designing this because the initial design was garbage. So let's talk about that for a second. When I designed this, I did not really set it up to hug the contents. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add auto layout. And I want this to hug contents. I don't want it to be fixed. I also don't want it to have any padding. So let's get rid of that. Now, let's put these together in an auto layout scenario, and let's see what happens. Yes, okay. So now it's gonna react the way that I want it to react. And what was happening before was, you know, if I can back this up, let's back this up to where it was. Okay, before auto layout. One more. There we go. So this is auto layout, or this is before auto layout. What's happening here is I've designed a shape that is very specific. Okay, it's not paying attention to the content at all. When I come in and you know, I'm control clicking because auto layout isn't available on a shape immediately. It isn't always, it's always in the drop down, but it's not always in that right rail. Something that I don't fully understand why. But we've added auto layout now, and now that gives us this space around it. If you put a fill on it, you can kind of like, whoops, let's get that back. You know, you can fill that background. Don't really want to fill the background. I also don't want any of the spacing around here, so I'm just going to remove it. All right. This gets us to the point where we're now, instead of being focused on like the width of the shape, now we're focused on the content inside of the shape. And this you know, you can switch that to be fixed, but if it's switched to be fixed, what you'll find is that, well, obviously that other content's going to go down, but if this is set to be fixed on the content, we're gonna have the same problem we had before. What we really want is we want to hug the content. And when we hug the content, as you add in other elements to auto layout, that's what makes it flexible, and it pushes the other pieces of the design around because it's watching the content. I say this because a lot of people get into auto layout and it doesn't move for them, and they're like, well, why isn't auto layout working? It's because you're not hugging the content. Okay? So just know, as you're getting into auto layout, there's two mechanisms at play. I've set up a fixed shape, which is fine. There's instances where you would want to use a fixed shape, but there's also instances where you want to have variable content coming in and out, and you want other elements like these stars to react to it. And if I've got a fixed shape, I can't make that happen. Okay? So just keep that in mind as you're moving forward. Obviously, we have our content set up, and it's like this. But the moment that we come through, and we say, "Oh yeah, I want that Rush exit stage left remastered 70s prog rock opus. Want that to come through. Oh, it's too long. Well, when I knock it down, there you are. Okay. All right. So that was fun, and obviously, Heather, you've got some work to do there because we've still got that larger card as well. And then all of this plays a role on 3. Okay, you're going to have to edit, and basically it's like look at the spacing around you. Look at how these sections are working. Okay, the macro is asking you to do something. The macro design of this is forcing you to come up with a different solution here, okay? And until you come up with that solution, like you just can't shove all the content in here. That's never going to work. That's not how it works in a professional environment. We have to negotiate not only the space but the content that's going in. A lot of times, you'll have to go digging for content because they'll say put some stuff here, and it's like, well, I've got to go find it. Here, I've provided it for you because I didn't want you to have to go find it. Okay? All right. And that's going to do it. I wanted to get into some, there's a new page builder that I wanted to take a look at. Maybe I will jump into that a bit later. Maybe there's another live stream in us today, so that we can jump onto that stream of thought. But for now, let's leave it here. We've been going for quite a while, and I do have other calls that I've got to get on today. So Heather, Abby, thanks for submitting work. For the rest of you that have been viewing, thanks for joining along. If you're tripping across this and you're finding value in it, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification. You'll be notified every time we go live. And I'm Chris Courtney. This is New Pragmatic's Feedback Loop, and I'll chat with you later. Take care.